Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. If you have your own song you'd like to submit for special selection, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's comes at us from Jonathan, continuing on the train of groovy melodic black metal with good production. Last week, they recommended Immortal, and that was on Thursday. Today they say here's an underrated hidden gem, a side project of Immortal's A Bath. The band is called and the song is The Storm I Ride. I did a little bit of looking into this. It features the drummer and vocalist of Immortal, the bassist of Gorgorath, and the guitarist of Enslaved. This was the only album that they made together, and they also stated that they doubt there's any future for this supergroup. So it's kind of a one and done idea. So let's dive into this. The Storm I Ride. Oh, that's punky. Very, like Judas Priest meets pop punk. I'm understanding every word here. It's kind of bonkers. You know, it kind of also reminds me a little bit of Highway Star. I can't remember what band sings that. It's that main guitar riff. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, that tom roll to come into this section, that was slick. A little bit of a bluesy solo. Yeah, okay. It's such an infectious, catchy song. I'm so glad this got brought to my attention. This is a really weird middle point between, classic hard rock and black metal with like the slightest touch of pop punk. I don't know how the pop punk fits in there, but I can't escape it. I don't know if it's just the bounciness of everything, which might be able to be attributed to some of the hard rock, or just the the drum work. I don't know, something about this though is just very punky, but like bright punky, right? Not the hardcore punk, but the mainstream punk that we kind of saw, Blink 182 and I don't know, some 41 stuff in that area. Those are probably two of the worst examples for pop punk, but I seriously just cannot think of anything that I want to reference in there. Um, but yeah, it's just, man, I hear a little bit of Judas Priest in here. Some Highway Star. Like I said, I can't remember what band did that song, but that core riff that comes in before the vocals. It only happened in the first half of the song, but it was, like I said, it was the riff that came in before the vocal came in because we had a new riff there once we entered the verse. So this would be like a pre-verse maybe. And yeah, just very Highway Star, especially the way that they changed the chord. They changed the chord not on the downbeat, but I believe it's just off it, just before it, just after it. I can't remember. But yeah, it's got that same sort of energy. I think it's just before the downbeat, to give it that driving forward energy. And yeah, it's just this weird combination of a bunch of stuff that doesn't feel like black metal, but well, actually, you know what? I don't know if I could call this black metal. Not this song in particular. That's not to say that the band I doesn't have anything that I would call black metal, but this one to me is it's hard rock with black metal vocals. So maybe, yeah, I don't even know what genre I could put it under. I think that's it. It's hard rock with black metal vocals, and a lot of that is because the music and the production are not blackened to me. We don't have the thrash elements in the music where we have the tremolo picking and the constant double bass kicks, or blast beats or any of that. It is very traditionally hard rock in both the guitar work, or all the guitar work, the bass work, and the drumming. Even when we get to the solo section, which I honestly can't remember too many black metal songs with solo sections. Either I'm misremembering things or black metal just doesn't, that didn't carry over into later black metal. Maybe we heard more of it in first wave, because that would have been more influenced by hard rock or heavy rock or whatever Motorhead was. These genres, man. Um, but yeah, even the solo here though is very blues influenced, and it reminds me a lot of early hard rock, not so much any of the heavier, more extreme styles of guitar soloing that I, for whatever reason, associate with black metal. This kind of not only leads into the phrasing of earlier hard rock, but also it looks at the use of sparse dissonance, bringing in notes outside of the chord that hard rock borrowed from blues and jazz wholesale. Just kind of taking that idea of coloring outside the lines a little bit. Not too often, but just enough to give your solo a little bit of flavor. And we see a lot of that in the solo section here. But even on the production side, everything is super clear and crisp here. There is a little bit of fuzz that comes from the distorted guitars and the natural compression of the vocals, but that's honestly it. In fact, the vocals I can hear quite clearly. I made out many sentences, which blew my mind. Either one, just the production and the vocal style here are very clear, or two, I'm finally getting an ear for this. I'm leaning more towards one, though. I think this is a very clear production. Um, Not just the fact that every instrument is placed well and has a decent mix, decent volume in the mix, decent placement. Everything seems to have clarity as the forefront rather than, um, being obfuscated some way, whether that's fuzz or being covered up by another instrument or whatever that. Everything's just super clear. placed where it needs to be placed, doesn't overlap with anything. And even the vocals, there's this brightness and clarity to it where it just kind of sounds like somebody who's speaking with a rasp rather than someone who's putting on these really harsh vocals. And I think some of that also comes down to the enunciation. I wouldn't say that it's harshly enunciated, where there's just a huge emphasis on each individual syllable. Like, that's not what's happening here. We've heard bands that do that, and I appreciate that. But it feels more that there's a focus on the syllabic interpretation, to a point that it's not slurred. It's not kind of run together. And part of that's going to be the production, part of that's going to be the vocal delivery, but either way, what it comes out to be is something that, like I said, it feels like someone singing with a rasp. More so than someone who's creating a harsh vocal. So, just once again, I'm just really digging the entire atmosphere here. Whether it's the musical energy and drive or the production that allows everything to be heard rather clearly, but walking away from it, I don't really get a black metal vibe other than the vocals. I sincerely, I'm making up new words. I sincerely think that if you took out these vocals and replaced them with clean vocals, no one would even say black metal on this. They'd say that's a hard rock throwback. To me, it's only the vocals that kind of give it any sort of edge into that black metal realm. The only other ties that every member comes from black metal bands, I think. I don't know if all of them are. We got I know Immortal is. I think Enslaved is. I don't think we've had Gorgoroth on on the channel for me to know. Um, but I'm gonna wager that every member here is from black metal, so that might be where it gets its title from as well, its genre. But I'd say that this is straight up heavy metal, hard rock, whatever you want to call it. Um, like I said, Judas Priest, whatever album, or whatever genre that is, that's what I'm getting here, and but I'm digging it, right? Much like I dug some of the other stuff we've checked out in the past, in that genre. So, with all that said, discussing the production and the genre and what I got out of it, what's going on here though? Let's get away from the subjective stuff and let's look at some of the objective ideas. So, much like we kind of can expect from the genre it takes inspiration from, a lot of our guitar ideas are based in the idea of a pedal note that takes up a majority of the lick or the riff, and then a lick at the end of it. So dun da 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 da. I don't remember if that's the exact riff, but that idea, right? We have a single note that we kind of play around with rhythmically, and then we have a nice little idea at the end that returns us back to this pedal tone that we can repeat again and bring back this entire riff over and over and over. It's paired with this drum idea that is very bouncy, energetic, and just it drives the song forward with an infectious energy. Interestingly, they also play around with some rhythmic ideas, like triplets, to kind of get off of the rigid 8th and 16th, well, mostly 8th notes, 8th and quarters that they utilize throughout the song, to give it a little bit of rhythmic juxtaposition, rhythmic syncopation. That's the word I want. To push against that rigid downbeat so that some of our hits come off of the beats themselves and come off of the offbeats as well. We see these mostly at the end of some of the runs, right? Now, here's an interesting thing, is that during the chorus, I think it is, we have some more staccato ideas going on. They're not super staccato, but they are shorter. We don't allow the notes to really hang on that long. And that in the guitars and bass, pushed up against what the drums are doing, is where I'm really getting this pop punk kind of vibe from, because it makes it feel very bouncy and energetic. And this is the part of the song that always made me want to move my whole body. The rest of the song is groovy, and I kind of move my head along with it. But this section makes me want to jump around like I'm at a concert. I don't know what it is. My brain immediately goes to pop punk. I don't know if anybody else gets that. Maybe that's just my point of reference, but it feels bouncier. It feels funner. It feels more uplifting, uh, or I guess just lighter in a sense than any other section of the track. And I really don't know what to make of it because we have these brighter tones, right? There's still a bit of fuzz in them. They still kind of had that black metal fuzziness and distortion from the overdrive and the pedals and whatever they got. Um, but the notes themselves are a bit brighter. They're a bit lighter than I typically associate with black metal, which tends to focus on these really heavy chords. And these are a bit lighter. And that paired with the bounciness of the rhythmic component and the fun driving element in the drums, it just, to me, it doesn't scream metal at all. It is very rock, punk, pop rock, pop punk. I don't know, but it's very fun and bouncy. It's what I associate with pop punk. I mean, that's the best thing I can say right there. Like I said, I don't know if anybody else feels that, but that's definitely where I'm coming from. It's the only part of the song that kind of gives me that, but it's such a strong component. We revisit it so many times that I have to sort of inject that in there as like hard rock with black metal vocals and occasionally pop punk. Just kind of toss that in there, sneak it in there a little bit. Um, and it's the fun thing is though is that tonally the way that the instruments sound here are not pop punk. It really is the rhythmic and musical aspects that kind of bring that in. So it also kind of harkens back to some of the hard rock heavy metal stuff that just kind of fits right in here. And it doesn't feel like it's a different part of the song because of that. It still has some roots in the ideas that came before it, the intro and the verse. So it's just it's a really natural progression that goes into a place I would never expect this sound to go to. Um, and I honestly don't know what to think of that. I think this song broke my brain, honestly. I don't think I have ever used the words fun, bouncy, pop, anything, and understandable talking about a black metal song in my life. And you guys have had me listen to a lot of black metal. This song put a smile on my face. It made me want to move around and dance and move my head. And it reminds me of so many genres that are not black metal, but I can certainly see where black metal fits into it. It's so weird. I do want to talk about the solo section next, just real quick. Like I mentioned, I really enjoyed what it was doing. It's not what I would traditionally think about when it comes to black metal or any sorts of extreme metal. It borrows heavily from hard rock's borrowing from blues. It's a spacious, slower, more exploratory style of composition that also incorporates some ideas outside of the key to add a little bit of spice to the melodies it's creating. It also works off of a 16 bar idea, which is pretty standard in jazz. Um, and it allows the solo to sort of be broken up into two main ideas. I kind of wasn't a big fan of that. I think both of the ideas had nice flow within them, but they did not flow well into each other. But, tools in a toolbox, right? Just because I didn't enjoy it doesn't mean that it's not a great way to go about comprising a solo. And but just the way that the individual ideas had great flow within each other, the way that they crafted the melody, and the inclusion of these outside of ideas while taking its time to get through these 16 bars, it just really feels like jazz to me, or like an offshoot of jazz. We listened to Brubeck last week, and I think that was some very pure, slower paced jazz with a lot of spacing in it. Um, that I think is a really good example of that style of soloing, whereas this kind of took that idea but ensured that the solo kept moving. There were moments of space to it, but it never really had silence, right? So sort of, a rock adaptation of a jazz solo, which I think works very well. And it's cool to see that lineage, you know, come from jazz to rock and roll to hard rock to whatever this is. You guys can call it black metal. I don't think I can, though. And it's neat to see that, though, to see that lineage being presented here in a group that is comprised primarily of black metal musicians. It's just, to me, really wild, right? I think that, like I said, I think this song really did break my brain. It's just not what I was expecting at all. And the last thing I want to talk about is the structure as a whole, which I think works well for this because of what it is. And I'm going to use some weird words from black metal again. This is a catchy song. This is an earworm. This is something I'm going to have stuck in my head. I'm going to want to put it back on and listen to it a few times. I might end up checking out the album if the rest of the stuff is like this, because the structure of the song is A, B, A, B, C, B. We have verse, chorus, bridge, which is a new idea, and then we come back to the chorus. And we have a familiar structure, very popular structure. We have bouncy, fun, rhythmic ideas. We have callbacks to hard rock's idea of riff writing, which hard rock has a lot of catchy ideas as well. In fact, Highway Star to me is a very catchy song. I don't think, I don't know if it was directly an inspiration for this track or that specific section in this track at least, but I hear a lot of Highway Star in this song. And so we have all of these components that are catchy and earwormy and not poppy, but they evoke the ideas of pop, right? Of being catchy, of being an earworm, of not being able to forget the track, right? These are not things that black metal typically does, at least for me. I'm sure black metal fans might find some stuff to be catchy, but that's not been my experience with the genre. The only thing missing here is the vocals, and like I said, if we went for cleaner vocals, I think that this could have been mistaken entirely for a hard rock track, but despite that, I still think the vocals are kind of catchy, at least the chorus. Like rhythmically, it's kind of stuck in my head. And I kind of have that one line, "The storm I ride," stuck in my head. I didn't really catch everything else to be remembered, but I'm sure once I get through the lyrics here and I assign, the lyrics to the rhythm that I've kind of memorized, I'm gonna have that chorus stuck in my head for a while, and I'm probably end up gonna have to listen into this a couple times just to get it out of my head. So this is a catchy, fun, poppy kind of style of black metal, and I like it. And like I said, in my eyes, it's not black metal. Something tells me that the black metal purists are going to denounce it as black metal, but I like it. I think it's nice. And, something that I didn't think I was going to talk about, but just popped up in my head, bridge bands, right? For those who are new to the channel, bridge bands are what I call bands that do one thing from an extreme or a more abrasive style of music and pair it with something that is a bit more palatable. And I think this band does that very well. This is a good bridge into black metal if you only listen to rock or if that's what you're most familiar with. To me, like I said, this is a lot of rock with black metal vocals to it and some black metal sounds in the guitars. I think this would be a really nice way to get into black metal, to get acquainted with some of the sounds of black metal sonically, while still being very safely within the bounciness and catchiness of hard rock or heavy metal. And maybe this is my bridge into black metal. I don't know. But I don't know. I guess with that said, let's get into some lyrics and see what's going on here. Also, I want to say before we get into it took me a long time to figure out the name of this band. I could not figure out if I could not figure out if it was I or one. And honestly, I'm still not quite sure, but I've just kind of landed on I because I think that's the most plausible. So, a wind, no, I ride a wind of no return. My soul is cold, my mind burn. Cold burn. All right. I ride my fate with all my hate. This is my search. This is my state. State, 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 state. I don't remember that repetition. I got to go back and figure out how that works into the song. Um, I ride a storm of no reverse. My spirit's dark. This is my curse. I journey fast. This time won't last. My fate is sealed. There's no reveal. Very simple lyrics that I'm just kind of really enjoying from like just a simplicity angle. I tried to have a different word there and I don't have one. I think it's very direct. There's a little bit of metaphor in here, but for the most part, it is very simply stated with very simple rhymes throughout as well. And I think it just kind of works well and kind of works with that catchy poppy angle. Um, I also, I didn't notice this the first time, but we have this slight variation. First calls it a wind of no return, then calls it a storm of no reverse. I don't think it works quite as well. The storm of no reverse, kind of stretching the idea a little bit, but had to rhyme that with curse. Got to get that in there. And the dark spirit. So basically, he's saying that he's on a journey that is driven by his darkness. He has a cold soul, a burnt mind. His fate is filled with hate. His spirit is dark. This journey is a curse of his. But his fate is sealed. He can't ride against this. So his storm I ride again and again, a soul of ice. Storm I ride till the end. Storm I ride. Um, and then the guitar solo, our third verse. Interestingly, we just go verse verse. Oh, I was wrong about that. So it's verse verse chorus, bridge verse chorus. So A B C A B. Interesting. Yeah, I was wrong about that. It doesn't feel that way though. And I think that's might be the point of it. It feels more traditional without being traditional, with it, which is a pretty neat way of going about doing that. It makes the song more palatable while also stepping outside the bounds of traditional or mainstream styles of composition. So then we have I ride a war that's on my own. My will is strong. I bow to none. I am my fate. I breathe my hate into your soul. You're in the cold. So just saying that this is a war that I have. This, all this hate and darkness in my body. This is all my own. I don't involve anyone else in this tirade, but I have the will to do this. All right. I don't bow to anybody. This is, I'm like a nomad, right? I'm my own person. Even says I am my fate. Earlier said I ride my fate with all my hate, and it says my fate is sealed. So it almost sounds like they are succumbed to or are controlled by higher forces. A fate doesn't allow them to step outside of this journey, but at the end actually says that I control my fate, and this is what I choose to do. Um, and then says, when I catch up to you, I breathe my hate into your soul, and now you're in the cold. Um, so yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. Just says it has a lot of hate for the world and has a one-man war against everybody and wants to turn everybody into ice, metaphorically maybe, but just wants to spread their hatred. It seems like with their words. I can't say that I'm a big fan of the lyrics. Kind of the same thing with Tyrants from Immortal. Just not about that. But I really dig the music here, and I really can't come to terms. I can't reconcile the fun and bounciness of the music with these a bit juvenile but also heavy lyrics about spreading hate through the land and making that their purpose in life is to ride their hatred and the coldness of their soul and breathing it into others so that they can become cold as well, spreading the message of hatred. Man, that's a bit of a downer. I might still listen to the rest of this album though, just because the music is interesting. Blew me away. But dang, I sometimes I wonder if I should get into the lyrics first because this is not the first time I have just uh, praised the music of a song, and I get into the lyrics. I'm like, dang, I did not see any of this coming. Sometimes it's just super dark, like this one is, where it's just an angle, a perspective I just can't see through. And sometimes I've just praised a song and gotten to the lyrics. I'm like, dude, this is dark. This is about a really heavy subject, like with Capra's Lotus Preacher. So, maybe I should Maybe I should start my videos with the lyrics so I can get my mind in the right place before I just. I don't know. Maybe that would ruin the musical analysis. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Eyes, the Storm I Ride. I'm not a big fan of that band name. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up with your comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not, anything that stood out to you, anything you'd like to agree with me on or disagree with me on. Let me know. Above the comment section is a description box, and there's a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here. You can pick up some merch, join the Patreon, join the Discord, follow me on Twitter, a bunch of other stuff. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to look at some more wild screamers and another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.